There are many things we can see differently now that we've spent time getting to know our grief. A year in, we have an entirely different vantage point to speak from. We can now see some benefits and even be grateful for this journey, though at times we certainly didn't feel that way. We've grown so much feeling our way through grief. Though the sadness and void never go away, your relationship with the grief does change. And for us, we've started to see great meaning in so many things that we didn't before. We lost Q about a year ago, and it has taken us that long to be able to talk about it. It still is very hard for us to talk about it, but we have perspective now, which we've earned by going through the bramble thicket of grief. This is a deeply personal and private topic for us, but what we've learned is integral to our story and important to share. Q is such a precious treasure to us. He was our family. We belonged to each other. He governed our household. He forced us to sleep on tiny slivers of bed, and we loved him for it. You're crazy! He was our boy, our little chowdy duty. Even in old age, people thought he was a puppy, and he had a fan club everywhere he went. Just before his 16th birthday, Q tore both of his ACLs. Not a contender for surgery, a long recovery began.
Hard time getting comfortable today. That's pretty good, huh?
Our intimacy and bond with Q only deepened in his last years as we had to aid him so much. We were often literally connected. We did get him walking on his own again. But by 16 and a half, he was ready to leave us. We had to let him go. The flowers, cards, food left at our door, and general outpouring of love following Q's death was a true testament to his popularity. He was the star. We were supporting cast. We both loved him more than anything on earth, and caring for him was the most worthy thing we've done with our lives, at least so far. We could never imagine or prepare for how letting him go would change us. We would never be the same again. We certainly could not imagine, in the initial crushing weight of our grief, that there were many gifts Q still had yet to give us. Grief can feel like an out-of-body experience. You're kind of just watching everything happen in slow motion around you. You're disconnected from everything except your grief. Though horrible, there's a unique presence in that dissonance. Watching life like an observer, there's a freedom to feeling apart. You're tuned into a different dimension. Though things can almost always get worse, you don't feel that way in grief. It feels like the absolute limit of the abyss, and there's so much possibility for introspection and growth. The apathy sort of wipes the slate clean, and you're free to relearn life. It's hard to explain just what I mean, but I'll give you an example. The day after Q passed, I was sitting on the floor where he had passed away, stretching after my first of many daily runs that would follow. And a daddy longlegs just slowly walked in front of me, paused, and then continued. It was as though this creature was my witness in that moment. This version of me was noticed, and there was something very powerful in that moment of noticing one another. We witnessed each other in that moment. It was a feeling I wasn't familiar with, and I would learn to get very familiar with in the coming months. We went to the cabin shortly after Q passed. It was springtime. We had spent countless hours foraging for mushrooms when Q was injured the previous fall. We had found many mushrooms, but nothing particularly edible. But that spring, we were walking up the driveway, and what did we see, illuminated by sunshine, right by my foot, when we weren't looking, but a morel mushroom. I dropped to my knees in awe of it. This was another one of those moments. Stripped of any pretense or rules, we could fully imbibe this miracle. Previously, Neil and I shared an inability or unwillingness to show vulnerability and to express ourselves emotionally. We pushed a lot of our feelings down or away. Leveled by our grief, we were starting to build a new emotional life. The Tao of Q. Q taught us many things. In life, he taught us how to truly love. In death, he taught us how to surrender to emotion, how to cry, a lot. And because we had to put our love for him somewhere, immersed in the vulnerability of grief, we could develop an intimacy that we had never known before and learn how to be truly loving to each other. Then through the past year of work, Q has taught us to love ourselves.
Oh, I get it. You crazy boy. You're nuts. Shush.
We went to the cabin for the summer. We just needed to not be here, and nature proved to be so healing for us. Q's best friend was Norton. We had taken care of him a lot over the years and loved him like he was our own. When we returned to the city, Norton died suddenly. We hadn't seen him since we lost Q. It was just too hard. We were so heartbroken and expressed our sorrow and regret to Norton's family. But they told us that they hadn't asked us to take care of Norts after Q had passed away on purpose. And it was not because of our sensitivities around just losing Q so much as them not wanting Norton to feel the loss of Q not being here. That was so beautiful to us, and it made us less regretful. It was a really generous thing to say. We thought that our time together was over, that our relationship with Q was over. But as we felt our way through our grief, we kept finding these gems and gifts that he was teaching us in absentia. Our relationship hasn't ended with Q. It's changed. He has become our true north. We couldn't get rid of his bed at first, and many of his things, so we left it in our living room. An altar has sort of grown over the last year, and that's what we're doing when we're lighting the candles at the end of the night. It is a tribute to our dear departed boys, who we still love and appreciate every day. Q's death shattered us. But it was in those fractures that we could truly take in the light that Q shone into our souls. He left us adrift in a sea of love.